In part 1 of our Resident Evil story recap, we spent the vast majority of our time on laying down the groundwork and going over loads of backstory in some detail, which will be important later on as we begin to talk about the events in the games themselves. In part 2, we'll be recounting the events portrayed in the first 2 mainline games in the series' chronology, Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 1. Before we begin talking about how the Bravo team of STARS fares in its mission to investigate the attack on the Ecliptic Express and all of the strange killings that have been reported in the Arklay Mountains, let's stick with Albert Wesker for a while, because by now, Umbrella knows that things have started spiraling out of control, and as such, any investigations into these events, which are bound to happen, will throw a wrench into their plans. Wesker is tasked with damage control. He's told to lead the STARS astray in their mission, which is something we'll get into in just a bit, and sacrifice them to Umbrella's experiments in order to not only remove any potential witnesses, but also to provide Umbrella with combat data on their BOWs. He's also told to recover the embryos of all of the BOWs that Umbrella have deployed and to destroy the Umbrella laboratory under the Spencer Mansion to remove traces of any evidence. As Resident Evil 0 begins, Bravo team of STARS is on board a helicopter en route to the Arklay Mountains as their mission begins. The Bravo team consists of Forrest Speyer, Kevin Dooley, Kenneth Sullivan, and Richard Aiken. None of them are going to be too relevant moving forward though. The Bravo team members who will be relevant are Enrico Marini, the captain of the STARS Bravo team, and Rebecca Chambers, an 18-year-old rookie medical officer in the team who is on her first mission for STARS and is, most importantly, also our protagonist. As Bravo Team's chopper is on its way to its destination, its engine malfunctions. This should be noted that it was actually sabotaged by Wesker before it took off, forcing it to crash land in the forest. The team is split up and Rebecca explores the surrounding area to investigate and regroup with her squad. As she does so, she comes across the train Eclipse. Rebecca explores the train only to find it overrun by its passengers and crew, who have been transformed by the swarm of leeches that attacked it into zombies. On the train, Rebecca also encounters someone else, Billy Cohen, a former United States Marine Corps lieutenant who apparently was wrongfully convicted for the murder of several people and was being transported for execution in a base in Raccoon City before the military van transporting him crashed, allowing him to escape and hide in the crashed train. After Rebecca and Billy meet up, they notice a mysterious young man off in the distance, someone neither of them recognize. Before any of them can make their way to him, the train, with 2 of them still on board, begins to move again. How? Well, unbeknownst to Rebecca and Billy, 2 members of the Umbrella Security Services, or USS, an elite security wing of the corporation, had been ordered by Wesker and Birkin to retake control of the train and destroy it, and with it, any evidence on board. Before they can complete said mission, the 2 are attacked and killed by leeches, leaving Rebecca and Billy on a train that is speeding out of control. The duo manages to apply the brakes, literally, and redirect its course. When the train stops, they find themselves close to an abandoned complex. This abandoned complex, as you may have guessed, is one that is quite significant in the history of Umbrella Corporation, and as Rebecca and Billy explore it, they found out just why that is the case. This facility, they discover, was one that was used by Umbrella for the purpose of training future Umbrella officers and executives, and was run by none other than Dr. James Marcus. Rebecca and Billy make the discovery that Marcus was the one responsible for the progenitor virus and in turn, the T-Virus, which Umbrella would go on to weaponize as BOWs. Soon, due to certain circumstances, Billy and Rebecca get separated, and as she is looking for Billy, Rebecca runs into Enrico Marini, the captain of the Bravo team. Marini tells Rebecca that the rest of the Bravo team is regrouping at an abandoned mansion not far from the training facility and that they'll continue their mission there. He allows Rebecca to stay behind to look for Billy and then meet up with the squad later before leaving himself. The mansion, as you may have guessed, is none other than the Spencer Mansion, which we will get to in a bit. In the here and now, some serious things are about to go down because as soon as Marini leaves, Rebecca is attacked by something that can be best described as a monstrosity, which is unlike any of the regular zombies she had come across until now. Hulking, muscular, dangerously agile, and stunningly strong, with an ability to withstand extreme damage unlike any other zombies Umbrella has managed to conjure up until this point. This, as Resident Evil fans know, is a Tyrant, a line of super soldier-esque mutations that the corporation had been developing and cloning as the ultimate BOWs. Miraculously, Rebecca manages to withstand its attacks and is able to temporarily defeat it before she manages to track down and meet up with Billy again. The two are promptly attacked by the Tyrant yet again, and working together they manage to bring it down once more. Don't worry though, we'll be seeing a lot more of the Tyrants as we cover more of this series, so think of this as a very temporary reprieve. Billy and Rebecca continue onwards in pursuit of the mysterious leech-controlling man they had briefly encountered earlier on the train, and as they do so, they find themselves in a water treatment plant, and this is where things come to a head, and where the true identity of the leech-controlling man is fully revealed. 10 years ago, Dr. James Marcus was betrayed and assassinated by William Birkin and Albert Wesker at the orders of Spencer, while Marcus was experimenting with a queen leech, which is something that we've already discussed. What we haven't discussed, however, is the fact that after Marcus's corpse was dumped, it got taken over by the very virus he had been working on. The Queen Leech entered his body and reanimated it, and as it did, not only did it gain shapeshifting abilities, it also gained access to all of Marcus's memories, whereupon it started believing itself to be Marcus. Over the next 10 years, the Queen Leech devised a plan to exact vengeance upon Umbrella, a plan which came to fruition when it caused the outbreak of the T-Virus, as well as an attack on the train by a swarm of leeches. Rebecca and Billy face off against the Queen Leech in a harrowing and long-drawn climactic fight. The fake but also kind of real Dr. Marcus, as you can imagine, is not easy to take down, but take him down they do. While doing so, they also inadvertently trigger a self-destruct sequence in the facility. Rebecca and Billy escape, having not only killed the Queen Leech, but also having triggered the destruction of the facility. As Resident Evil 0 comes to an end, Rebecca promises Billy that her police report of the entire incident will mark him down as yet another casualty, essentially giving the wrongly accused man his freedom back. Billy thanks her and the two part ways, with Billy on his way to an unknown location, and Rebecca making her way towards Spencer Mansion not too far from her current position, leading directly into the events of Resident Evil 1. But let's pause yet again and yet again go back to Albert Wesker, because things with Wesker rarely ever go where you think that they will. He was given a set of tasks to accomplish by Umbrella, tasks that we've already discussed, and some of which we've already seen in Resident Evil 0. But Wesker is a smart man, and as the events of Resident Evil 0 start coming to a head, Wesker realizes that things are spiraling out of control, and he wants to get out while he still can. But he also wants to make sure that the getting out is profitable for him as well. Wesker has been contacted by a mysterious rival corporation of Umbrellas known only as the Organization, who have offered him safety and employment if he steals Umbrella's BOW embryos and brings them to him. Wesker offers Birkin a chance to join him, but Birkin refuses, not out of a sense of loyalty or anything like that, no. He does so because he wants to stay at Nest, his underground facility underneath Raccoon City, and finish his research on the G-Virus, which is something that we'll be speaking a lot more of when we cover the events of Resident Evil 2. Wesker then is still looking to accomplish pretty much the same things he had before he decided to leave Umbrella, sacrifice the STARS members, steal the embryos, but this time for entirely different reasons. And now with that out of the way, let's jump back to the story at hand, the story of Resident Evil 1, where we shift our focus from Rebecca and the Bravo team to the Alpha team. STARS' Alpha team consists of names that fans of the series will be very familiar with. Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Barry Burton, Brad Vickers, Joseph Frost, and of course, none other than Albert Wesker himself, the undercover Umbrella agent, for now, who's also the captain of the STARS division and the leader of Alpha Team. After RPD loses contact with Bravo Team and is unable to communicate with them, Alpha Team is sent out after them to investigate just what the hell is going on. Alpha Team's chopper lands at the spot where they see the crashed helicopter of Bravo Team in the forest, but before they can investigate it, they're attacked by a pack of monstrous zombified dogs. In the attack, one of their squad members, Frost, is killed. Alpha Team's chopper pilot, Brad Vickers, panics, gets back in the chopper, and takes off, leaving the rest of the squad stranded in the forest, forcing them to seek refuge in a nearby abandoned mansion. Yes, the Spencer Mansion. The mansion, as you might have guessed, has seen better days. For starters, it's completely overrun by zombies and zombified creatures and monsters as a result of the T-Virus Outbreak that was orchestrated by Dr. Marcus's Queen Leech-infused body. The T-Virus, in fact, also came in contact with the deceased Lisa Trevor, who now also stalks the dilapidated remains of the mansion and is a threat that Alpha Team finds itself squaring off against as well. In the mansion, the Alpha team is separated, and Jill or Chris, depending on who you choose to play as, also meets up with the members of the Bravo team, but not in the way that you would have expected. Yeah, you might have guessed this, they're all either dead or zombies, or are brutally killed right in front of you. Well, not exactly all of them. Chris or Jill also come across Enrico Marini, the leader of Bravo team. Marini tells them that one of the members of Alpha team is a traitor, but before he can tell them who that person is, they're shot and killed by an unseen shooter. Chris also meets up with Rebecca Chambers, who by this point is the last surviving member of Bravo team. As players explore the mansion, the curtain on Umbrella's clandestine activities is slowly pulled back. The player character learns about the underground lab, about Umbrella's illegal and not so moral experiments, and of course, about the T-Virus. Eventually, Chris or Jill make their way to the underground lab, where they find whichever of the two you're not playing as in a cell. But that's not all they find. They also find Albert Wesker fiddling around with yet another Tyrant, which he intends to program to wipe out all of Alpha Team. Wesker reveals his true colors here, revealing that he's a double agent and that he's been heavily involved with Umbrella's activities. What Jill or Chris do not know is that earlier, Wesker had infected himself with a mutant virus strain, something that won't come into play just yet, but will obviously be important as time goes on, so keep that in mind. Wesker releases the Tyrant, but things don't exactly play out the way he had imagined that they would, because the first person that the Tyrant attacks is Wesker himself. It stabs Wesker through the chest, and based on all outward appearances, he dies, but not really to the surprise of no one, but for now, consider him dead. We'll be back to Wesker later. With Wesker out of the way, the Tyrant then turns its attention to Chris or Jill. A chaotic struggle ensues, but it's one that the player character is able to overcome and manages to defeat the Tyrant. Immediately afterward, they trigger the lab's self-destruct sequence and escape outside, calling in extraction. There's more than one possible ending in Resident Evil, but we're going to focus on the good ending, which is canon. Chris, Jill, Barry, and Rebecca manage to get on board a helicopter and escape, while the mansion, and everything still inside of it, is completely destroyed thanks to the lab's self-destruct. And that's where we're going to go ahead and finish part 2. When we come back for part 3, we'll be heading over to Raccoon City itself as we talk about the events of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.